Welcome to the 3Haunted podcast, where we bring you all things horror, supernatural, folklore, mythology, and all things that go bump in the night.
What's up, everybody? This is your co-host, Ashley Lunar Goddess, Gorilla Girl filmmaker and horror-loving cinephile. I'm just your average podcast-producing badass.
I'm John Thomas. Some would say that I go a little too far with my love of all things horror, paranormal, and meta, but I say, talk nerdy to me, and I'm all yours.
The Dead of Winter Horror Network and Nick King from the 508 Productions invite you to endure the most terrifying immersive experience in all of podcasting. Beneath the Red Umbrella, now available wherever you listen to podcasts. Beneath the Red Umbrella, when the snow falls, the killing season begins.
What's up, ghouls, gals, and all of our celestial friends out there? In today's episode, we'll be projecting our way back into the astral realm with our special returning guest, Eva Vennari. That's right, Eva's back to discuss Starseed, extraterrestrials, fairies, or fae, and dragons. Welcome back to the show, Eva.
Glad to be here. We're going to have fun.
I'm very excited to have you back. I know I got the notification when you booked your second appearance, and I was very excited. I'm like, yes, we're going to do this. We're jumping right back in.
Yeah, I'm ready for it all. And I don't know where you guys even want to start, but I'm excited for it. So
let's start with Starseed, because we've had a few people kind of give us a little bit of an idea of what that is, but I will be honest, I still don't quite understand. So if you want to help this brain put it together, that would be amazing.
Well, we can put things into context. So, I mean, you almost have to start with, well, what do you know? What do you know? What do you understand? What do you think you know? And then we can kind of deconstruct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what do I know? I think the general idea that I have is that Starseed is like a celestial DNA, like an alien DNA that some people carry, but that's about it. That's all I got.
All right, cool. Yeah. So if we were to pop our experience out into inclusion, and we think we come to this idea, we're not alone. We're not alone, and we don't exist and never have existed in this vacuum of experience. You know, we're very isolated as it comes to a solar system in our universal experience, or the experience, physicalness of the universe that we know. And people will talk about, oh, it's a multiverse. Yeah. We have multiple places that we can go to, we can visit astrally, memories of which, and we carry with our. We can't remember it all, though. You know, we have a hard time remembering what we had for breakfast, let alone what other planets we've lived on. So we have this much bigger picture of the possibility that if we are an eternal being, in other words, our consciousness has never been born, so we can never die. You have that idea. Well, where else have we been? Isn't that the curiosity? Isn't that the question? Well, where did we come from?
Absolutely.
But well, it's okay. It goes from where do we come from to like we are. That's the I am statement of the forever, right? So we just are. We are a consciousness, and many of us have decided to stay with source energy, and those people are people, non-physical bodies, entities that have stayed there. That's not really a star seed so much as the collective, right? So we're all part of this one big collective. Then you have entities who have left that source and decided to have a physical experience on other planets before this one. And people have heard of often the Pleiadians. It comes from the Pleiades star system. I believe it's the seven sisters in the sky, right? So you have, that's one. And then you've got the Arcturians, which are, rumor has it, they were the first inhabitants of Earth. Right. And so we're talking about races. We're talking about different, not human. We're talking about different physicalnesses and different dimensions that those physicalnesses we're in and continue to be in and exist in, even alongside our physical existence in the 3D, the third dimension. So there's kind of a smattering of the landscape with a few examples. So that can get you started. What questions do you have from there?
So many. It's like, you know. So first question, with the I am and them all existing all at once, experiencing different dimensions and experiences, does that mean that I can be in my human experience right now while still being in a Pleiadian experience in another dimension?
Well, my limited brain, because I too drank the wine of forgetfulness and decided to come into this body, and rumor has it, another rumor, because there's no way for us to, it's conjecture, right? There's no way for us to know until we leave this body, or if we do have a near-death experience, and then we're like, oh yeah, look at all of these truths. But the idea is, why wouldn't it be possible? So here's my theory to answer that. And I love that kind of question. It makes me think. So if the rumor is true that we are in the 3D experience, the only reason we have the time-space continuum that is linear is to grow this body and have the physical experience. Outside of this experience, everything happens all at once.
And I guess, yeah, so to go on with that, I've had one experience where it felt like an out-of-body experience. Now, it felt very emotional and spiritual. It had nothing to do with the mind. I don't know if that's because that's what I'm trying to think of, what kind of state of mind or state of being that you have once you actually leave that, when you die, I guess. What are you, what kind of existence are you experiencing? And is it a mental thing to be able to decide to come back or to go somewhere else?
Well, I think that's meditation, isn't it? When we're trying to get to, if a goal of meditation is to get to that Zen state where all of our thoughts of the world have now been pushed away, and we let go of all of our the physical labels that we have and society has applied to us, mother, daughter, son, sister, brother, whatever that is, in relationship to the physical personality of being in this body and the ego that we develop. The eternal part of us can then come through. And that's part of our life mission as being humans on this planet, is to discover what the larger part of us, the eternal being, has to offer and bring it in. That's like one of my favorite things to discover. I play in that world for personal development and spiritual growth. So what do you get to? I would imagine more rumors that this looks and off. Abraham Hicks talks about this. And her suggestion is that when we leave the physical body, that actually depresses or suppresses our eternalness, knowing who we are as a larger spiritual being. That we are always in the state of, let's call it ecstasy, because outside of the human physical body, we don't really have access to the chemical emotions that a body can create. So we mistakenly want to apply our human judgments and emotions to a spiritual body. Does that track? That makes sense? Yeah.
Isn't it interesting, though, that, if we go along the gossip realm, that we are these celestial beings that have chosen a human experience because we want to experience human things, physicality, emotions, those kind of things, that the entire time we're here trying to have a human experience, we're trying to go back to the collective experience. So,
yes.
So it's just like, how fickle we are, but always the grass is greener, right?
This is the crux of our existence, is we don't realize how valuable this human body is and what it's meant for. We're not here to suffer. I don't know who came up with that line of crap, but we're not here to suffer. We're here to enjoy life and to remember who we are so that we can bring in the gifts for each other's spiritual growth. That's it. It's really I say that, that's it. Like, it's that simple. It doesn't have to be so complicated.
Now, I do wonder, along with where BJ was going, I believe, is, because we have this meat package that we're in, I do, and the suppression so that we can experience this human experience. I do wonder if that's how we kind of, when we sleep and in our dreaming world, that kind of disjoints and it breaks apart. So we forget that we have that flesh. We forget that we're here for the human experience. And that's where we see individuals kind of going on these dream journeys, whether it be astral projection or dream walking. And it's like, oops, I forgot for a moment that I'm human.
Yeah. And dream world is a whole nother experience that is, I haven't had any starseed experiences or interactions with extraterrestrials, if you want to call it that, in dreamland. What I find in dreamland is a smattering and mishmash of memories, foretellings, and so you can dream the future if you ever had a dream, and then a few days later or even years later you experience it, and you call that deja vu, right? So at least that's been my experience. And so there's a bunch of things that can come into the dream state. And by the way, you can protect that so that you can make sure your dreams are not interrupted by other humans and their thoughts and their curses and hexes. And yes,
now, how does one do that? Because I've never, ever, ever been able to protect my dream world, and it drives me crazy. Bananas.
Yeah, it depends on your spiritual team, and it depends on your magical abilities. So let's just wean it down to one aspect and say, okay, if you have, for example, a really good relationship with Mother Gaia. Now we're getting into other, and by the way, the manifestation of Mother Gaia as an energy is our collective creation, much like our pet souls, right? So anyways, not that she's a pet. Let's get that clear. Very powerful, very beautiful being that I work with a lot. But the idea is that our collective consciousness is so very powerful that we can create consciousnesses, and so she's one of them. And yeah, so you can reach out to her, and meditate with her and say, this is my intention, and I would like you to create a safe space so that my dreams are my own and not interfered with by any other external entity.
I'm going to have to try that because honestly, even, and I know I've talked to the guys about this, but I have very specific rules about in my bedroom. I do not allow any kind of like spirits, energies, influences, like not the bedroom. The bedrooms are sacred. They're neutral spaces. But when I fall asleep, when I fall asleep is when stuff happens. I wake up and there's something standing next to my bed and I'm like, I said no. But, but because I fell asleep, it's almost like everything went with it. All my guard, all my wards and protections, and so it's just like we got to figure something out, me in this dream world.
Yeah, no, there are spells that you can do. There are in my case I do something called sacred geometry, which is a manifestation of basically a box. You grid and seal the space, and then you can use protection salts. I mean, this is witchcraft at its finest, but it's also ancient mystery school stuff that the Druids did. So I'm that's why I'm alchemist. It's like I pull it all together and I use whatever, not to mention the dragons. So
dragons, great segue. Wonderful segue. Let's talk about the dragons.
Yeah.
Now, when was your first encounter with the dragon?
June of 23.
And you said dragons, so now you've experienced more than one.
Yeah, it's interesting. I had a little bit of a spiritual jealousy of those who were talking about their dragons. And by the way, you don't have a dragon. The dragon has you. So this is just the we have to understand our place in the world of magic and who brought magic to the world. So I want to give this little deposit of information and let you play with it. Merlin.
Yes.
The legend of Merlin. It's another rumor. He's still alive and on planet. So who taught Merlin magic?
The dragons. Is it
the dragons?
get a gold star.
Yeah, gold star. You get a gold star. The dragons were the first magic on planet, according to lore. And before them, the first magic known to the universe was unicorn magic. Do unicorns exist? We'll talk about that another time. But yes.
That will be part 3.
So yeah, dragons. As I was learning and the mystery school or ancient mystery school works, and there's many places to learn from them. You want to find schools that have a track record and ability to track back their information, not just made up on an ayahuasca trip. Like, really be careful with your magic. Your magic should be able to be confirmed. And so anyways, learning this, people were talking about how fun it was and what it was like to be with a dragon in their experience. And I'm like, well, what's wrong with me? Like, I'm learning this stuff. Where's my dragon? And it took a while because I didn't start learning true magic until 2019. And so it took 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, like 5 years, right? Did I get my math right? 4.5 years. So
4.5.
4.5 years. And so here's how the dragon decides to introduce himself to me. And an interesting fact about dragon magic and about gender and the laws of the universe and human truths. Dragons they understand gender. They don't deviate from it, and they will assign themselves according to your physical gender. So a physical female on the body on the planet will be assigned or have an assignment with a male dragon, and then vice versa. And the reason is because magic requires that duality. There's a reason for gender. So magic is well supported with that. And that's why they assign themselves. And so here's a very common statement I will say to colleagues of mine. I was doing myself I had a need for a physical healing. So I decided to go into the ether, and during the 3 keys to heaven, on my way to 7th dimension, to do a healing temple journey. No drugs required.
No ayahuasca dragon for you?
Yeah. So I in this process of doing the keys to heaven, you're in space. Imagine yourself floating above the earth, and you can look down and see the earth, but the space of the ether has no stars. For me, it's just blackness. It's all blackity black, like black coffee, just black. So here you are floating in space, and typically there's a physicalness outside of your body. You talk about an astral travel. This is an experience of an astral travel. You have an experience where you can feel yourself moving through the different dimensions, and then you end up in the 7th dimension. So at some point, I could feel myself being pulled down, and I'm like here, and all of a sudden something's pulling me down. I'm like, what the hell is going on? This is my ether. I'm God here. What are you doing? Like, what's happening? So I look over my left shoulder, and there's this huge eyeball, like 3 feet wide. And this was an introduction. The dragon decided to show a part of himself to me, and I immediately knew who it was. And of course, I'm in my metaphysical space pooing my drawers. I don't know if we can curse here. I just didn't.
Oh, yes, you absolutely can.
Yeah, so shitting my drawers. And here we are. and I remember saying, I kept my cool, and I'm like, so, hey, nice to see you. I don't know who you are, but I'm on my way to 7th dimension. And he's like, can you let me go now? And so he did, and I went off. So when you do that, you go to 7th dimension, you meet up with your higher self. And so here's my higher self. And I says, hey, there's like a big dragon down in my ether. He goes, oh, yeah, he's here to protect you.
He's adopting you.
Pretty much. And I go, I said, what am I going to do with a dragon? Which pissed off the dragon. He's like, you don't do anything with the dragon. Like, the offense was real. You could feel it rippling through all of the dimensions. He's fire breathing, upset, flared. You could see something get offended. That was the dragon. And let me describe the dragon. You know, Smog from...
Oh, powerful Smog.
He looks like that. The biggest of the dragons, the European fire breathing red dragon with all of the, you name it. I'm like, oh, sorry. Didn't mean to offend. I'm learning. I'm new to this. But then I said, what am I going to get myself into that I need protection from that big of a dragon? This was the beginning of me doing exorcisms.
Oh. So does the dragon assist you with exorcisms?
No doubt.
That's amazing. Now, you encountered your dragon for the first time in the ether. Do they also exist in the physical realm?
Rumor has it.
Gotta love those rumors.
I mean, it's if you do a little bit of digging on Google, not that it's all fact. I'm talking about finding more rumors, finding lore, finding that the time-space continuum for an elemental such as a dragon, they can live thousands and thousands of years, tens of thousands of years each, without in our 3D experience, but they can live even longer than that in the other world. And I think we touched on the other world before, if I'm not mistaken. Do you remember?
No, I think we did.
Yeah. So when you're outside of the construct of the heaviness of 3D, your bodies can live a hell of a lot longer. Like the Pleiadians are rumored to be living in the Mount Shasta mountain, and in their light form bodies, and they've been there for thousands of years. So
we're going on a road trip.
We are going on a road trip. Yeah. So anyways,
Wonderful.
Dragons, are they on the planet? Rumor has it, yes. There's a lot of lore about that in Japan, China, even parts of Europe. I mean, they were talking about killing dragons just 800 years ago, right? Arthurian times.
How rude.
I know. Well, why would they want to be? That is the reason why, by the way, that they're not continuously here, because they're here to help us. They're not here to harm us. Although, just like people can go rogue, so can dragons.
So how do we contact them? Like, how do we well, one, how do we know if we have a dragon or what? Like, because we have our spiritual team, right? A few different entities, and how do we connect with them? How do we know which ones are for us and how they're here to help us?
Yeah, so dragons in particular, they're pretty blunt. They're like New Yorkers. Like, they will tell you, we're here, hello, and they develop a telepathic communication set with you, so you will not doubt. In fact, my dragon, let me stop saying that, and I'll call him by his name. So he told me to call him Enos. So Enos says to me, he goes, you need to stop doubting this connection between us, and I want you to understand how strong it is, and that I'm here for you, and that we are moving forward. But the prerequisite to that was getting rid of guilt, fear, shame. You must relieve yourself of these human states of mind and emotional downfalls, because the dragons don't have time for that. They don't have time for you to be unworthy. They don't have, right? That should make you smile. Yeah, they just don't have time.
They sound like your blunt, like, family members, the cousins that are like, you need to get it together.
Yeah, there's no enabling here at all. And in fact, if you do start to have self-doubt, and I'm not talking in a healthy way where you're humble. I'm talking about, oh, there's no way I can do this work. I'm just a human. No, you need to understand the value of being a human. This is why demonics mess with us. Because they understand the value of a human. They understand the eternal soul. Yeah.
So then are dragons, because we talked about starseed and being different creatures and entities in different dimensions, all connected to that collective, are dragons, and are we another form of a dragon and dragons a form of us, or they're just their own magical creature?
They're they're elementals. Okay. So just like, imagine if Lord of the Rings was real.
It is.
Right? Yeah, and you had dwarves, and you had elves, and you had fairy, and you had all of these different races that were at one time on planet. Mer people, What if they all existed and dragons were there and unicorns were there and, like, all of the bad stuff in addition to that? What if it all exists? So it would be nice if we could put blinders on ourselves and go, oh no, we just live in this nice little box where we're human and we get to, grow up and get married to somebody and have kids and that's it. Well, if you want to have that experience, go ahead. But this is way more fun. Can I just say? Anyways.
BJ's already like wheel spinning how to get adopted by a dragon.
Yeah, it's really about, this is why I work so hard with people on their personal and spiritual development. We must remove our self-doubt, our fears, our guilt, anything that's been placed on us, and especially shame. Get rid of the shame. Re-examine anything you tolerate. Bring yourself to a place of authenticity. This is why that narrative is so prevalent in today's coaching society. When you look at the coaches that are out there for personal growth and even professional development coaching, they're talking about be authentic. This is, in my opinion, why? Because you can get closer to your purpose. If you can get closer to your purpose and understand why you're here, to your question about, well, how do we know these entities are for us? If they're in alignment with your greater mission and they show up as assistants and they give you assistance and it is nothing that is binding you or keeping you from your purpose, then that's for you.
My question is why? Why would, and that's not a doubt, it's just trying to understand why such a magical, elevated creature would spend time investing in humans, teaching magic, helping protect, helping guide.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, it's a good question to ask. I think, they were, if we go back to mystery school indoctrination, we talk about here's the story behind the whys. And they do talk about that. They unravel it all. It's like all of these things that we wonder about. If we just studied in mystery schools, we would all go, oh.
It makes so much sense.
We can stop postulating on this and guessing. We can just oh, that makes sense. And as you have more connections that are telepathic or direct with your guides, are like, yeah, we confirm that. So the dragons also have free will, just like we do. And when I can't remember, it was the Galactic Federation. Yeah, that's real too. If they were gathering forces for all of the colleagues of the human race to try to get us successfully through this test of life, which is a whole nother conversation. Then the dragons were asked, hey, will you help us? And they were like, no, humans are
no,
hopeless. And just like, who was it? Was it Lot that was talking about, if I can find just one person in Sodom and Gomorrah, or 10 people, will you save the anyways, biblical. Mm-hmm. The dragons it says, okay, we'll help eventually. It took them a minute, but they had to find worthiness. They had to find people who were not stuck in their doubt, their grief, their fear, their worry, their, like, all of these things that we think are normal. Oh, I worry about you, which means love. It does not. Let's get our boundaries right. Like, when we do that, then these beings show up for our help, and they're like, all right, what can we achieve together? It's greatness. This is divine soul partnership at its finest, really.
Oh, I love that. Divine soul partnership. Look at us learning new things.
Well, yeah, it's very interesting because, it's like, what does it all have to do with hauntings? Well, a lot of people see things from the corner of their eye. They'll see spirit, or they'll see something, and they're like, oh, I'm not sure did I capture that on camera? Did I see a dragon? I can't tell you how many people lately have said to me, I've been seeing dragons. How is that different than seeing a ghost?
Whew, I don't know.
He said, whoo, you're blowing our minds here.
Well, because so it's a lot of things, right? A lot of people separate things. They separate religion from extraterrestrials, from dragons, right? You got sci-fi, you got different things, right? It's all separated because I think nobody really wants to put them together. Nobody wants to be like, no, this is actually part of it.
It is.
And I think that's I think that's the big thing. I mean, with just everything with religions, there's just a lot that people are so connected to, and they won't open their mind to another possibility that it becomes a problem. And so it's harder to maybe connect these things. And I think for me personally, I think yeah, I mean, I think about aliens. I do not think about ghosts in the same realm. So it's kind of it's yeah. So it's for me. It's that's where it gets a little confusing because um, are they do they both exist? Are they is it a just a is it all connected? And that's I guess that's where I need to do some learning.
I think it's a fear-based thing
Yeah.
because if a lot of people, let's say, for example, believe in God, but there are a lot of religions that don't believe in ghosts or demons, but they do believe in a higher creator. So they believe in the high vibrations, but not the low vibrations. I think a lot of it has to do with if you put it all together, let's call it all the same paranormal, dragons, fae, aliens, and you prove one to be true, then everything else is true. And I think that scares people. It
Yeah,
scares
it does.
people a
Oh, it's
lot.
messy. It's messy. That's why. How do I navigate this? What do I do? Where do I go? The choices. It's like a buffet that is beyond your scope of understanding of what food is. And it's it's very enticing and scary at the same time. How am I going to eat all this in one sitting? You're not.
You take one bite at a time.
I had a really fascinating conversation with a gentleman, and we talked religion. Basically, I drive a shuttle, and I drove him. It was just me and him for an hour, and we talked to religion, and we talked about jinns specifically, and how they are alive, and how they can be seen and not seen, and how ghosts don't exist, but it's all jinn. And so it was yeah, it was very very interesting. And I was like, so you don't believe in like spirits and people? And he was trying to say that um everybody that dies is sleeping until the day of judgment, until the apocalypse, and then
Very
everybody
biblical.
It's a very
exactly
dogmatic, yeah, approach to belief. Yeah. Very.
right. And so I guess my whole thing was I was having a hard time trying to connect with it because there's so many things like what we're talking about today that just I don't know if it argues with that, but like
It challenges it, doesn't it? So
yeah.
if we can have, so let me give you an example that brings it, I think, to a really good help with a theory. Like, how can we wrap our brains around all this? If I have a stick of existence, and on one side of the stick is people live lives where they can reincarnate. Okay, so and then on the other side of the stick is you only live one life. Catholics believe you live one life, right? Pagans that believe they get reincarnated, and I don't know who else does. Buddhists, there's a bunch, right? So, what if both are true at the same time? And you have to expand the concept of the stick and know that everything is true on that spectrum. So, there are star seeds from source energy and from from source, because they've never been human before, right? And there are a lot of new people who showed up. Let's talk about the millennials, shall we? New. They've never been human before. They don't have an Akashic record of history of being human. And I'm not talking about all millennials. I'm talking about many of them. And they're here on request of people like me who have lived thousands of lives on planet, told by Dragon. I've lived 2,000, how many? 917. He had to remind me. 2,917 lives. That's different than a single life. And that's why a lot of people who are of this volunteer from source, who are living this life, they're here because I asked for help. I said, we're not winning this battle of raising the consciousness on the planet. We need help here. Can you come and live a life that is free from karma? If you've never lived before, you cannot have karma. So we can enjoy life and then raise the consciousness of the planet. I'm giving you all kinds of stuff to like chew on right now. So so you can see how it is beneficial to believe both ends of the stick must exist and be true at the same time. They can be. They're just different rules for different people along the way.
So you just mentioned that you call them in to raise the consciousness or to raise right for humanity.
Yeah.
Is that the goal? Is that where we're headed? Is that why things are progressing, I guess you could say, the way they are
Yeah.
spiritually and all of that?
That's my personal rumor I'm spreading, yes.
Well, I guess my next question is, how does technology fit in with that? Because I feel like technology, like the human experience, technology has increased faster than anything that we can think of, right? Just and it's just keeps growing. We always want the next best thing. We always want to improve with that sort of thing. How does that tie into anything?
Well, I mean, there's the AI wars, another rumor that existed in other solar systems in this universe where the AI won. And so there's a cautionary tale in them not to let it become biotech. Too late. Because eventually the AI does, in history, if history repeats itself, take over. But I love technology. I'm a tech intuitive. I love to be able to use technology to amplify, organize myself, to keep things in perspective. I don't live by it. I'm not addicted to it like a lot of people are. So there's, just like anything, it can be a vice, and it can be helpful. And it just depends on how you apply it in your life.
I kind of feel that technology is feeding a part of us that we crave and at our divine level, that collective consciousness, that connectedness mentally, energetically, that when we didn't have technology, we were a little bit more like separated out, right? And now that we've plugged in, I kind of sometimes wonder if that's where the addiction comes from, because we are feeling that kind of synthetic, right? Echo of what it is to be connected emotionally, energetically, mentally. And it's like that synthetic drug. What did you say at the beginning? The ecstasy of that divinity.
Yeah.
And we're like, wait, I remember this. And so
Yeah.
we
Yes.
lean into it, but it's not the real thing.
But neither is using crutches when you've got a broken leg.
True.
So if taking on the human experience means you forget how to be telepathic, if you forget how to be compassionate, if you forget to drive into the dispensation of love and understand that we are all one, like we've forgotten all of those things to become human and have an individual experience. And that's where narcissism comes from, and in the extremes of that. So we're using technology as a familiarity. I can agree with that. I think that's an unconscious need being met, but it is just crutches, because as soon as we develop our clairs, and as soon as, like, I don't need a phone to text message Enos. He's always there, and he's always offering information that I don't necessarily need to hear. But much like our news channels, it's just, it's there. And so I think in the development, personal and spiritual development, we can wean ourselves off those crutches. So great use, but not to be replaced by the divine, which is way more powerful. You've ever, you looked at your phone after thinking of somebody 5 seconds ago, and all of a sudden they're calling you. That's us. That's humanity. It's not the phone. It's magical. It's us.
So I guess a lot of people that research aliens and alien technology, they have this idea that these alien beings are far more advanced technologically, right? They've been around longer and all of that. Now, is that a misconception of a different sense that they have that isn't necessarily based in technology? Or is it both, or are they that much more advanced than us technologically but also intuitively?
Yeah, they're not hindered by the physical. Well, let me put it this way. You've got different levels and different kinds of, they're not all extraterrestrials. Some of them have been here forever. They're just in a different dimension, or they're in the same dimension and they visit. So you have different races, different species that have been here the whole time with us. There's that. And so therefore they don't need the technology. If they're moving their bodies through telepathic means or through astral travel, they've developed those senses. Also, it is rumored that the human condition is the most cut off of all of the other species, even the ones that that are just elemental. We're kind of, to toot a horn, say we're kind of masters on the planet. To be a human being is the hardest being to be, because we don't have access to each other. We don't have access to the other ether, not without developing these clairs and the gifts that you have. So that kind of sort of answers a question you didn't ask, but gives it a bigger perspective.
That makes a lot of sense. It really does, because I mean, I think most humans feel that way. They feel the sense of they need more. They need answers. They're alone. We're closed off. And the only thing we know is how we are getting through life together, right? That seems to be the way that a lot of people reach happiness in their lives is through community, through friendship, through relationships, that kind of thing. And because it's all that we have, right? I mean we do have more with people like yourself that can tap into all of the extra things, but I would say the vast majority of us don't, right? Like most people are just blind to it.
Blind to it and don't necessarily care about it because what's in front of them is what's occupying them. And I mean the 3D world. You've got the materialism of, and there's nothing wrong with being materialistic. People say that with a derogatory tone. There is something about being tuned in and tapped in and turned on about going after the thing that you want most and getting it. That is a spiritual journey.
I think it's also just remembering the balance. Like, we are here not to be divine, right? We are here to still have that human experience. And I think a lot of people strive so much for that transcendence and divinity all the time, they forget you have to have the humanity too.
But yeah, not to forget the physical body. This is a conversation I have with a lot of spiritual people who are healers, and they're like, "Oh, Eva, I don't need supplements. I don't need food. I'm breatharian, right? So I can just breathe in my minerals and I'll heal and I'll continue." And I'm like, I don't know how that's going to work for you. You're in a physical 3D world in a physical body. You're going to need nutrients. So
Still have to have that.
you still have to have it. You're right. It's a balance of the two. And I was listening to a podcast this morning, a woman who had a near-death experience, went into a coma. She had her cancer experience, and she realized that when she was in a coma and on the other side, that her cancer was not a physical problem. It was an emotional one from doing things she didn't want to do.
Wow.
People pleasing. And I wrote an article about that too. It's like I believe cancer, especially when you're in a relationship, is co-created between a person who is ignoring the fact that you're not taking care of yourself because you're being such a gold star person for having a sacrificial life and doing everything in service to others. There's no gold star, only cancer on the inside of that. Yeah. So it's all together. We can take all of these subjects and put it into a nice big bowl. We'll call it Earth. It's all there.
We'll just call it Earth. Now, how do the Fae come into play? Where are they?
They were pain in my eternal ass. So
That needs to be a T-shirt.
It's kind of like when you go to the art museum and it says don't touch the art. I want a T-shirt. Don't touch the art. And that's how I feel about the Fae, because they are mischievous things. There's several different subspecies when it comes to the Fae. Not all of them are nasty, but I'm telling you, they can be mischievous. And they when it comes to who knows them best, ask anybody in Ireland. Like, you can go, if you've ever been to Ireland and gone to kiss the Blarney Stone, if anybody of
I
you
did
ever done
that.
it. I did that too. So you notice, I don't know if you felt it, I want to know what your experience was. When I walked onto the land of the castle, Blarney Stone Castle, it was different. Energy for me was palpable. What did you feel?
It's been quite some time, but yeah, it felt different. It did feel very different. It felt, I don't know how, I guess I wouldn't know how to describe it, but um it didn't feel like anywhere here really. It felt, yeah, I mean, obviously it's a very, very old place, and just the atmosphere around it, the weather, the grass, all of it was very, yeah, it had its own flavor, if you would say.
Did it feel like a different world?
It kind of, it felt to me like there was portals around every corner. Not that I could see them, but it felt like it was not solid. Like you could literally walk around a corner and go through a little portal and you were off into another world. That's what it felt like. It felt like it was open. And the Fae, they will go through those portals from the other world, because there's a Fae world in the other world, and they can create the portals and they go through those portals to be here, and then they go back and forth. I tell you what, when I cleared out a house, it was last month. It was one of those houses on like a ghost hunter show. And the woman who owned the house, she called me and she's like, I need you to clean out this house. And we spent an hour together going through all of the different entities that were there, from the original owner that was a earthbound human, didn't want to give up the house. We helped her move on. The man who killed himself in the garage, he created a portal to like hell. We cleared that up, moved him on. Yeah, I know this is what the dragon's for. This is what the dragons and the angels, that's what they're for. So, and then we had an instance of what looked like to the youngest daughter, a child living in her closet. And it wasn't a human child. I tuned into it and he wouldn't answer questions. So we had the angel. I called in the angel and we had this thing by the scruff of the neck. Who are you? What are we here for? And he acted like a sketch out meth head. Would not give us straight answers. And so finally I went, oh, he's Fae. We need to move him on. And so we took the angels and the dragon. They took him over to the Fae queen. She wanted to deal with him in particular, and we closed up the portal through which he was traversing between the two worlds, and that was that. But he was trying to, I don't even know what his gender was. It appeared as a human boy, like a 9-year-old boy, blonde hair. And it was scaring the child and running around the house and kind of flitting here and there. And I'm like, this is not human energy. This is something else. And that's one thing as a healing practitioner who's meant to, I'm also, I think I mentioned this in the first show, I have the ability to ferry souls over to the other side and to seventh dimension, into heaven. And you can't put anything that you find into that dimension. You have to make sure they're human first. And so that's part of what the cleaning off the soul does. If they go through that cleaning as an elemental, they will actually be obliterated. So you can almost, as a healer, you can almost threaten the thing. It's like, well, if you're not human, just know that this will kill you permanently. Like, you'll be gone. Oh, okay. No, I'm actually this. And they'll self-identify and you can sort it out. But yeah, it's messy.
So you were able to identify it as Fae. Was that an intuitive knowing, or is that what it conveyed to you?
Both. So it did not give me a straight answer, and Faes are often known for being untrustworthy, and let's just call a liar a spade. So a liar, they're used to that. I'm used to receiving that kind of response from them.
Okay.
Yeah. Not that humans can't be that way. It's just that generally when they're when they're stuck here as a spirit body, a human that has simply lost their body, gone through transition, and their body has died. Their spirit might still be stuck here, and some people call that purgatory. Purgatory is not the 3D world. So if they're in the 3D world and we can see and feel them, then they're not in purgatory. They're here. So those people, they have a much more real desire to be honest. They don't want to be here, they go. Or they say, I want to be here because I want to be close to my family, or whatever the reason is. They'll give you an answer. This was not acting like a human. So you can tell by their characteristics. Yeah.
So you're able to ferry what used to be human spirits over to the other side. When it comes to Fae or other elementals, is that where the dragon comes into play to help you, or can you get them back to their Fae realm?
Both. So I always, before I start any session, even before coming on to the podcast and talking about these things with you guys, my space is protected. It is sealed and gridded. I have brought in my angels. I have done, work to make sure that I am protected. And part of that preparation means you bring in the angels. I'm not doing the magic. I'm choreographing it. I'm the conductor, right? It's a big difference for me to take the claim. Like, wasn't Moses cast out of wherever he was headed, the land of milk and honey, right? So he was told you can't go into Canaan, I think that was, because you have taken the claim of being the person who, did this magic. You are just the clear conduit through which the magic was was worked. And that's what I am. I'm just the clear conduit through which the magic works. And I conduct things. I'm a mediator at best. I'm not doing magic. I'm calling on magical beings to help.
Do you have to call the angels, or are they already there? Like, or your dragon, are they? Because it seems like you may have to call them at some point, right? Like, what is?
I call in the aspects of a set of angels that I wish to use. So, for example, if I'm working with somebody on their sovereignty, I want to make sure that they don't have any demons, attachments, curses, hexes, spells. I'll call in the angels of sovereignty. They always come in pairs. You've got a masculine and a feminine. They don't just come one. It's always that gender mix, right? And you call them in to do the work and protect you at the same time. The dragon needs way less magic because he is the magic.
Right.
So I went from let me give you a juxtaposition. Not having that, prior to having the dragon, I had to go through all of this rigmarole to get up to 7th dimension. With the dragon, hey Eva, let's go. Yep, the tail comes, sweeps me up, I'm on his back, and we're off into flying. I mean, that's pretty much the difference. So
Hence why you're the pet.
yes. Yeah, he's like, let's be clear, you're my apprentice. We may have lived many lives together, but I'm teaching you. It's not you own me. Yeah, I got it. Done.
Now, you originally said dragons. How have you encountered the other ones?
So when I went to England back in August, started off in Glastonbury, speaking at the Ascension Glastonbury event. And there were lots of dragons there. But during the travels, Enos's divine soul partner, she revealed herself to me. And then I received 2 other dragons, one in Southampton and one in London, that all came to my experience and said, this is what we're here for. We're going to be with you. So I've got 4 currently that spend time protecting, because all dragons basically, their basic function is to protect.
And do you have to call on specific ones, or do they just appear as you need them, or as they see that you need them?
Well, it's telepathic communication. So as soon as there is a need, whether it's emotional, even if I don't recognize it, they're there. They're right there. Yeah, once you're in their good graces, they're very loyal.
BJ, get a dragon.
I know. I might. I don't know if I have a dragon, but I've been told recently that I have a guardian angel. I went on a ghost tour. Spent the weekend. It's called the Abbey Monastery in southern Colorado, and lots of energy there. And the second night we were there was some bad energy. And we had to get we had a lady that was there. She was, she did some sage for some of us, and then she went up to me and she's like, "Oh, you don't need this." And I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "No, I'm part of this. I need some sage." She's like, "No, you have a guardian angel with you." And I'm like, "Oh, I mean, that's great." But,
well, I want to answer the direct question, because you said, do they come in or are they waiting? They're both. So they're waiting, but they don't come in until you ask.
Right.
So you could have, she may have a different definition for guardian angel than I do. I would call your guardian angel your higher self. So there may be an aspect of you, the larger part of you that you're connected with, that is with you at all times.
To protect me? Like my higher...
No, because angels do not act unless you ask. Okay. Whereas dragons will act even if you don't ask. They are the master, you are the apprentice, right? So they're like it. Because here's the thing, when you start to work with a dragon, you go on this meditation journey and you actually sign a contract. Like, I was brought into a space in the other world where it was, you've seen Harry Potter's, right? So there's the one where the whole crux was off the ocean and they had to go through the cave,
through the lagoon and into the
yes. Yeah, okay. So that, fill it with a bunch of dragons, old crotchety dragons that were all very seriously old. And so there's several of them sitting behind this big slab table, and there's my contract with a pen. And they're like, Sign. Okay, all right, where? No problem. So you're signing that. This is an agreement between the two. You have that. With angels, it is much more free will based, but it's also on need. So a guardian angel does not swoop in to help and save us. It is more or less, I think that's a part of your consciousness that's become active, probably with your higher self. That's what I'm reading.
So how does that help me in a monastery with bad spirits? Like, how does connecting to my higher self help any? Like, I don't know. I guess.
Yeah, it'll warn you. So we have our emotional attunement is the connection between us and our higher selves. It lets us know whether we're in danger, right? And we've got the whole nervous system that lets us know to fight, to flight, to freeze, or fawn, I guess is the last one they've now added. Let's keep adding. So we've got,
As one does. We complicate things.
So if you're in attunement with that larger part of you that is unseen, that is currently not integrated, but part of, that's a juxtaposition right there. It's part of your experience. It's in with you. It's around you. It's alive. You're aware of it. That kind of thing. You can attune to its observation of the things that you can't see, but it can see. And it can say, hey, don't go down there. Don't do that, because you'll have a disconnect of emotion. In other words, you'll feel that lowering of emotion. You'll get the fear. You'll get the anger. You'll get all the lower vibrational feelings. Anything that is other than high vibration. When you're at high vibration, it means you're in alignment and attunement with your higher self. That's your GPS for life. So, yeah. How do you feel about this person? Well, they make me a little bit nervous. Run.
So I did have my spidey sense going off quite a bit that second night. So it was very weird, because I was trying to tell myself, I was like, just chill, man. Like, it's all good. Like, just chill. But I couldn't chill. It felt like somebody was throwing a book at my head, that like when you see it just for the last second, then you have to duck. Like, it was that kind of feeling, like, but there was nothing there, but it was just that feeling. I'm like, like, stop it. Like, I was trying to tell
Nothing
myself
that you
to
could
calm down.
see.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
it was more or less you were disconnected from that protector, or that part of you that sees more than you can see, because the technology of these eyeballs is very limited.
I always feel the lower vibes when I'm places more so than I do the higher vibes. But I feel like that's a beneficial thing. I know some people are like, oh, I only feel light things and angels. And for me, I don't mind that I feel the other entities and the lower vibrations, because to me, I feel like that's a survival thing. So knowing that they're present, knowing that they're there versus, being blissfully ignorant, I want to know so I can be like, big on.
There is such a thing as toxic positivity, and I think if we ignore our our internal mechanisms that are meant to keep us safe, we're in trouble.
I think the trick is just being able to feel those, identify them, but not be afraid of them.
Yeah, and then have the boundaries around am I being triggered by a moment that's bringing me to PTSD, or am I healthily understanding that the input I'm receiving is showing me evidence I need to protect myself, and be an observer about it. So what kind of danger is this? Is it danger to me? Is it dangerous to other? Do I need to be the protector here? Like, what is my role here? And you get to play that out. And for me, I get to play with the big boys. I do not fear cleaning out these spaces or working with anywhere I go. I'm not fearful.
Yeah, I feel like our energetic bodies and that, whatever people want to call it, your soul, your spirit, your all of that, I think is going to last. And that's where I do feel people forget. That's going to last. And that is, as you said, eternal. That is infinite. And so we are much stronger to those other realms than we realize. It's this flesh body that's the weakest aspect.
It's that we don't understand its value and the connection that we have to Gaia as an energy on planet while we are in this flesh body, aligning our chakras to be connected to source is what gives us the power to be magical beings here. And that is the coveted thing that demons are after.
So we have the feminine energy of Gaia that's been created. Is there a masculine counterpart to Gaia? like a consciousness that's been created from that masculine energy?
Off the top of my head, it's not coming to me. I know
Let's find
the
that
answer.
rumor.
Yeah, I know. Where's that rumor? I'm just not remembering it.
I was just curious.
Yeah, really, really good question. I think quite possibly, as being the creators, humanity's consciousness is that.
Got it. Okay.
That's my guess in the moment. I could change my mind. I reserve the right.
Part three. We'll chew on it a bit. Come back. Ask the dragons. I bet the dragons know.
With going into, because we are 3Haunted, right? So we do like to go to these places with spirits in them, right? We do like to talk and to, if well, actually, sometimes not. But is there any advice you would give to us as we go into these places? Because again, for me, I'm not super experienced. John is probably the most experienced of all of us, and yeah. So, what kind of advice would you give to us when we go on that journey?
Yeah, it would. A couple of things, because I do all this remotely myself. It's the study and learn to recognize the different energies for what they are. Not all of them are demonics. Not all of them were humans. Not all of them are, as you've heard, there are so many different types of energies that are out there, and some of them can be debunked with an EMF because somebody left the light on. Like that is there's a bunch. You have to allow for all possibilities and go through them and be kind of like a computer troubleshooter, as opposed to the, oh my god, I heard something that must be supernatural. So it's go in with that mindset, and then also have a protection that you put with yourself. Bring an army with you. Call in your angels and have them be with you, because you don't want to leave there with an attachment. Then you'll be calling me, and then I have to do an exorcism. So.
So that's my problem. So because I've been I'm not going to downplay it, because I've been really energy sensitive my entire life. I can identify typically what the energy is in terms of what it was or what it currently is, whether it's, hey, this was never human, or this, this is a human, just an angry human. So typically I can identify what it's coming from, the signature. My problem is that inadvertently creating a connection with it, because I'm identifying it, I need to learn how to sever that connection so I don't take it with me.
Or have the boundary, because I can't tell you how many times I've walked into a castle or a ruin, and all of a sudden, whoosh, hey, baby, what's going on? Maybe not those words, but can I go home with you is the next question, and I'm like, no, you may not. And
you did not buy me dinner.
Yeah, no. But you're talking about spiritual hygiene, and yes. When I work with somebody, with their permission, I attune to all of their spirit guides. I attune to their higher self. I attune to, whoever it is that their healers are on their spirit team, if you will. And when I'm done, I purposely have to say out loud, because it's a spell of disconnection. Thank you for your service. I disconnect from you now. Like, these are just simple things as far as hygiene. It's kind of like after you go to the bathroom, you wash your hands. It's that. Make sure you're doing that. And so, like, when you're done roaming a house that has entities in it where you were exposed, make sure you clean up, sage yourself if that's the minimum you can do. Do something. Ask your angels to make sure that you're completely clear before you step foot into your home and bring it with you.
I just have to make it work. So we were doing, I was doing kind of a remote guide for BJ when he was at that monastery. And I was connecting to a few things there through the video. And when we hung up, I was trying to do the spiritual hygiene. Like, I cut all the connections. I cut this. My energy is clear. All of these things. And then as soon as I laid down to go to bed, things are falling over in my bathroom. And I'm like, okay, I thought I told you this was done. I said we are done, and yet here you are. So maybe I just didn't believe it enough. I don't know.
Well, you're bringing up a really good point. Oftentimes, what you remember, I'm gonna go back to the Bible again. I've read the Bible from beginning to end, because I think it's just good information to take in. But Jesus, when he would heal people, he would heal with his hands and say, "And you are healed. Think on it no more." And this is what our little curious brain starts to do. Now, whether that was subconscious or not, you had the intention of cutting your cords and cutting the ties, and there was something that was allowing that thing to stick to you. So this is the examination part. Okay, what am I hanging on to? Do I have resentment? Do I have guilt? Do I have fear? Do I fear that I brought something home? Like, check the fear, especially. That's a big one. Fear and codependency is huge for the human condition, and we have to spend time correcting that.
I think now that you mentioned that, I think for me it was curiosity, because there was a name that had presented itself to me that I was still kind of mulling over, like, who is that? What was that? Who was that? And even though I was like, we're cut, we're clear. Yeah. Like, even though I'm like, we're done, I'm still thinking about it. So,
Yeah, think on it no more is huge, but our curiosity is quite strong. And here's the thing: when I have a conversation with an earthbound who is maybe attached to a wand or attached to something else, right? And as they're being ferried over to the other side, I let them know. I go, look, you are free to go between worlds, but we are eternal here when we're thought of. So as soon as people stop talking about you, that's when you're no longer eternal in the human 3D world. That's just that's playfulness. So if someone on this side calls your name and you're on the other side, you have them the permission. It opens a portal to come back.
oh, interesting.
So don't think of them.
No, you mentioned something and it struck me, and so I'm going to start doing this now. If I do any more of that, it's going to be think on it no more. I'm going to put my hand on my own head and say think on it no more.
Yeah. Healed. Yes.
I'm healed.
So, going back to the whole protection thing, I've always worried about overprotecting to where it, like, maybe
Oh, like it cups you.
nothing happens, like you don't experience like anything at all. So you go into this place and you're so overprotective that you don't experience anything at all. Or being with groups who are okay, protecting the whole group with prayer or with whatever. My thought is can you overprotect to where you don't
I mean,
experience anything?
I would like to equate this to a soldier going into war. Does his armor and his armory keep him from experiencing the war? No, it just keeps him from getting hurt.
Well, and this is my own, thought process, not something I've heard. But for me, you mentioned people that come in and they kind of umbrella or cup people with their own protection. And I think that has to do with consent. Because I
Yes.
feel like you can go into a place, and if you're receptive to receiving words, uh, their protection can only do so much.
They can't do
And
anything unless you give it permission. Yeah.
yeah, you have to allow them to be able to block you from those experiences. So I think if you're scared enough and they're like, I will protect you, and you allow it, then but I think if you're going in and you're like, person's like, I'm going to protect you, it's up to you whether you receive that kind of cup over you.
Yes. Yeah. This is why it's so important as magicians who we align ourselves with. If there is one bad apple, it ruins the whole spell of protection. So, magic, when it comes to your protection, do it for yourself. If you're going to do it for another, you're carrying a bigger load, and your magical energy then has to travel further. Most people don't have the energy for that. The astral energy for that is not available. So just do it for yourself.
Now you may be buffering yourself.
Yeah, you can. So here's the thing. There's it's a very real thing. People talk about, oh, I'll send you prayers. Not without my permission. You're not. Don't be sending me anything other than blessings, general blessings, because people like me, I have protection spells on me. If somebody sends me energy, good or bad, the other person who sends it receives it back in tenfold.
Yeah, and I'm just weird, like, with my energy. So when someone's like, I'm sending you light, I'm sending you this, it's just like, wait, I didn't give you permission to mess with my energy. Hold on, let's take a step back.
No, they can send it, but you can transmute it. So like part of it, there's all kinds of things you can do with your own spells and putting spells. A spell by definition is anything you speak. And this is why there's spelling bees, because you You speak out a word. Okay, so spells are spoken words that are your command to your own energy. That's all they are. And you get to design them, and you get to orchestrate what happens to energies coming towards you with those spells. That's what a prayer is. A prayer is nothing more than a spoken spell. That's Dragon Magic 101. What do you need to cast a spell?
Words in your mouth. Yeah.
Well, the action from mental and energetic, like just the process alone, turning energetic, mental, emotional wants, desires, whatever you want to call it, into a physical, audible sound, that in and of itself is like, it's a, what's the word I'm looking for? It's like an alchemy. You're changing something from one existence into another existence.
Yeah, and yet a thought and an idea is the beginning of all manifestation.
Yep. I love this so much. Oh my gosh, how does time fly by so quickly when we have you on?
Yeah, we flew fast, huh?
I'm impressed that we got through every single topic we were going to talk about.
Well, and then we added more to the list. Like,
We did.
Yeah, like what is it? Unicorns? You gotta
Yeah.
get into that for sure.
I don't have a whole lot of first-hand experience with unicorns, but yeah, there's a little bit of unicorn magic out there in the world.
Nice.
I'm very excited because I do want to delve into more. You did touch on like demons wanting to be in the human existence. So I would love to have another episode with you where we can talk about unicorns and further expand on that topic. But guys, do we have, oh, I'm sorry, that's the Southern in me. My friends, do we have any final thoughts before we wrap this amazing episode up?
I just want to say thank you again. Like, you just are an amazing guest, and I am looking forward to. I want to actually know some of the stories that you have from the cleanings. If you can get into those with us, I think that kind of stuff is. I think a lot of people would love to hear about your experiences with that, because it's unique. It's not something that anybody has any idea about, because it's unique to you and to the people that you talk to, if they're okay with you delving that kind of information.
Yeah, we can make it anonymous. The stories are still what I experienced from my side. I don't, yeah, absolutely.
Amazing. Eva, did you have any final messages before we go?
Oh, stay curious. That's the biggest one. Is whenever you feel inclined to judge because of something you've been taught by either religion or your parents or a seemingly helpful person, just stay curious. Ask questions instead of being judgmental. That's the biggest thing I can say.
Don't let the curiosity keep the connections going.
Yeah, know when to end the conversation. That's the better.
Know when it's done for the day.
Yeah.
All right, John Thomas, you want to bring us home?
Sure do. Thank you, Eva, again for coming on. Always a blast. And like BJ said, I can't wait to hear more stories and everything else from you. That would be fantastic. And thank you to everybody for listening to this episode of 3Haunted Podcast with your host. I'm John Thomas.
I am Ashley Lunar Goddess.
And I'm BJ Segura.
If you have any questions, comments, or episode suggestions, please feel free to email us at 3hauntedpodcast@gmail.com. And if you haven't done so already, please like, follow, and subscribe to all of our social media. You don't want to miss amazing guests like Miss Eva here.
Until part 3 and next time.